Half-Life, one of the most successful video game series of all times. What made it so successful? How different was it from other games of that time? Today, I'm gonna dissect the series from the perspective of an IT product manager, so you can also understand. Let's begin. Hi, I'm Dr. Bart and I would like to be your product management teacher. Today, it's a very special video. It's a product showcase to understand why the Half-Life series became such a successful one. And not because of the excellent gaming experience that they offered. That's not the perspective we're interested in. No. We are looking throughout the eyes of an IT product manager. And myself, the senior product manager at Microsoft working for Skype, will be your guide. Without further ado, let's begin. To understand the history and success of Half-Life, we need to go back in time and look at what paved the way for the series to exist. It was December 10th, 1993, when the hit game Doom was released. It was a new era of first-person shooters, FPS. Of course, there were many earlier games like this. Who can forget Wolfenstein 3D? However, only the fantastic demonic enemies, incredible music, atmosphere, variety of weapons, and incredible graphics at the time made for a truly unique and memorable experience. However, the best was yet to come. Developers and gamers at the time were really obsessed with 3D experience. Doom did appear to be 3D, however it was really a 2D game that used technical illusions to make you feel that you actually are in a 3D environment. What came next was no longer a hoax. Quake, the first true 3D first-person shooter. When this game came out, it was a real game changer. It was a milestone not that dissimilar to Doom, with everything that Doom did, but better and in 3D. It was the technological marvel that amazed reviewers and gamers around the world. However, what Quake did is basically use the try-and-tested formula of Doom, with killing monsters, clearing levels, and using keys to open doors with ammunition and health scattered around the map. There wasn't any gameplay innovation. Here is where our Half-Life story begins. Half-Life series starts with Studio Valve, created by Gabe Logan Newell and Mike Harrington, who were very rich ex-Microsoft employees who believed that video games are ready for something more than just points, killing and clearing levels. Valve knew that the technological base, so-called engine of Quake, could be used to create something more, something that would revolutionize FPS storytelling for years to come. Thus, they purchased the Quake's 3D engine and began work on their own project.
Please stand back from the automated door and wait for the security officer to verify your identity.
With the innovation inside, with the right technology, they believed they are ready to create a truly cinematic, story-driven experience where the player would immerse himself in the story. And that is how Half-Life was really born, with a vision unlike any other in the video game market at that time. In the game, we follow 27-year-old Gordon Freeman, a scientist, not a soldier, not a brute, just every day smarter than the average Bear Joe who finds himself in the biggest interdimensional catastrophe that has ever been seen on Earth. In one moment, his peaceful life of science becomes a story of survival, and we need to escape the danger and figure out whether the accident that caused interdimensional monsters and aliens to appear on Earth was really an accident, or was it a deliberate ploy from unknown parties? Let's take a pause to understand from the IT product manager's perspective, why was this so successful? What made this product different from previous first-person shooters? To help me out, I'll be using a list of product differentiators provided by Lenny Rachitsky from Lenny's blog, a great product management resource that you need to subscribe today. In the list, there are several factors that differentiate a unique product, something truly remarkable. That would be the cheapest, be the highest quality, be the most convenient, be the safest, sell a proprietary product, sell something that makes people feel great buying, focus on a niche, underserved market, and something that is not on his list but I would like to add is to offer something no one offered before, which you could argue that is part of the focusing on the underserved market, but it's imperative that we extract that from the list. So, given the incredible story, the technical prowess, and mix of those two, not seen previously in a first-person shooting game, which of those attributes do you think made Half-Life unique? Pause the video for a second. Half-Life 1 was of the highest quality and it focused on a niche, underserved market. Or more specifically, it was the first one to offer such an experience. Thus, Half-Life, with its story-driven narration, checked 2 out of those boxes. Before we move on to the Half-Life 2 game, let's look at another product management story that's connected to the first installment. Half-Life was a new concept, very risky one. Thus, when the game was first shown on E3 Expo in 1997, it did what a true MVP should do. It proved the direction of the product. The audience reception was great, even though if you look now at the footage I'm showing, it is different and inferior to what you've seen before from the actual game. So what happened here? Well, 3 months before the game was set to release, the Valve development team and management decided that the game is not up to their original standards. At some point, rather than pursue quality, they started pursuing deadlines. Thus, the game, though having all the checkboxes originally planned and later seen in the actual released game, was not that good. It was a bunch of maps stick together with story points that weren't coherent, and it didn't fulfill the vision that the original Half-Life 1 was set upon. Thus, 3 months before the release date, every asset was thrown away, the game was delayed, and the work started again. However, it wasn't a complete reboot. By then, they have learned everything they needed to know and had the tools and the knowledge to create the game which they wanted to create. Mike Harrington called this process a journey of discovery. So everything that came before allowed them to create the Half-Life 1 that we know and love. The team took extraordinary steps, which included hiring a professional sci-fi author, Mark Laidlaw, in order to polish the script and make sure that the game flows, that the action is dynamic and the plot is engaging. Thus, a year later, the game was released.
Welcome to the HEV Mark IV protective system.
And it was released to the success we know and observed. There's a big lesson to be learned here in the product managers. You can't push your product if it needs time to fulfill your vision. if you need additional resources, it's more important to deliver your vision and the quality that will meet the expectations of your users, rather than pushing their deadline quicker. After a success of the first game, Studio Valve did not stop. They had more vision, they had more ideas, and thus the work on Half-Life 2 began.
Rise and shine, Mr. Freeman. Rise and shine. Wake up, Mr. Freeman. Wake up and smell the ashes.
Half-Life 2 is a worthy continuation that is perhaps even better than the original game. What made this game so successful from product manager's point of view? After Half-Life 1, there are many other story-driven FPS games. Doom and Quake showed that you can simply do more of the same and you will be successful. So did Valve go this way? No. They understood that in order to make a truly memorable game, truly memorable experience, they have to push it every time. They have to provide an innovation as never seen before. So rather than focus on the story gameplay, let's focus on the two distinct new elements that made Half-Life 2 what it is. First of all, it's the new Source engine with the, back then, realistic graphics and models. Of course, in 2022, Half-Life 2 looks really dated and not that modern. But back when it was released, Half-Life 2 put the graphics to the new height, where the models of the characters made it that the immersion was even deeper. You felt like you're talking to, well, real people. As the story became more immersive, it also became more impactful. So you wanted to experience more. And that pushed the boundaries even further. Thus, the improved graphics were not there as an eye candy. They were added specifically to make sure that they serve the story, that you are in the middle of it, that you have that cinematic experience that was the goal of Half-Life 1. But it was not the only innovation that Half-Life 2 presented. The second thing we observed in Half-Life 2 was the use of physics. And not just your what goes up must go down. Instead, the physical engine that Valve implemented was showcased throughout the whole game. It was done via gravity-based puzzles that you had to solve in order to progress the game, but also we got a specific gravity gun that changed everything that we saw around into a deadly weapon. Again, nothing impressive in 2022, granted, but when it first came out, it was a shock to the world and to the gamers that got their hands on the game. Of course, better graphics and gravity aspect were built on top of everything that was great about Half-Life 1. Remember, I'm just focusing on the elements that made the game so successful from IT product manager's point of view. And to do that, let's look again at the Lenny's list and see what elements this time managed to get Half-Life 2 to be such a memorable experience. For that, I changed the last point to offer needed innovation. That's right, product managers. Innovation for innovation's sake doesn't make sense. Having new technologies, new options, being a feature factory is what makes product irrelevant. So you have to know what you need to build to appeal to your users. So pause the video now. Which points do you think apply to Half-Life 2 this time? It's the highest quality, sell something that makes people feel great buying, and offer innovation. Yet again, we got a game with the best quality engaging plot that carried you over while you had an excellent FPS experience. On top of that, building on strengths of Half-Life 1, a needed innovation was added, an innovation that enhanced the game, like the gravity and like the improved graphics that increased the immersion. You might have missed the element about buying something that people feel good buying. That is because, unlike Half-Life 1, Half-Life 2 had already a strong brand and an expectation for quality. Plus, that came with great reviews and appreciation from the industry, so people expected to have a good game. There was a passion to play Half-Life 2 and discuss it, and play around with the physical engine. There's another story that I need to tell you that's important from a product manager's perspective that involves Half-Life 2. And that is the fact that Half-Life 2 was the first game exclusively released on Steam. This is a platform where you can digitally buy games and hold your game library to play your games at any time. Back then, Steam was something a tad different, but let me not focus on Steam. This is a story for completely another time that could be another 20-minute video. For now, let me just say that having a strong brand like Half-Life 2 was a great lever to promote Steam, to make sure that people can experience its value and overcome the fear that it posed at the time, because people were afraid to have their games only in digital cloud. What about ownership? What about if the cloud goes down? That there were many questions, and Steam was yet to flourish and prove that the physical storage of your game is slowly becoming a song of the past. However, using Half-Life 2 to promote Steam was not the last time Valve used Half-Life series to promote a new tech. And this is where HalfLife Alyx comes in. HalfLife Alyx is a prequel sequel to Half-Life 2, where we no longer play Gordon Freeman. Instead, we play as his companion from the second installment, Alex Vance. If you look at any random YouTube footage, and probably at the footage you're looking right now, on how the game plays, you might make a significant mistake to thinking that it's just Half-Life 2 in a bit more modern graphics and a modern engine. So, given that we expect innovation from Valve, given that every other Half-Life game pushed the boundaries of what's possible further with each new game, what makes HalfLife Alyx so special? It's the platform. Alyx is a game that was strictly designed for the virtual reality, the VR experience. That was another incredible step in putting the player inside the plot, immersing him in the character he's playing. You are no longer an operator of someone else's actions as seen on a flat screen. You are in the middle of the game. You have to physically pick up the clips. You have to physically put them into a gun, reload it, and only then can you shoot. You have to open your own doors, and you have to move the objects that are in your way. And, most important, you are the one in danger. Your face is being attacked by headcrabs. You are being hit by the zombies. You live the illusion of danger even though you are in the comfort of your own house. Well, unless you hit a lamp by accident. This is literally the closest humankind has now came to having an actual Star Trek-like holodeck. Of course, Half-Life Alyx is not the first VR game to come about. No, there were many others before, but what was the difference is that almost every previous VR game was a casual, quick experience. Half-Life Alyx shown that you can create a high-budget, long, full AAA game with long, immersive, engaging plot, colorful characters, and the VR platform is okay for that. You can put player for hours on into the actual experience, and have a very engaging and entertaining time. But as we are looking at it from product manager's perspective, there is one more brilliant move that Valve did with HalfLife Alyx, because for a time it was an exclusive game for their own newly released VR headset, Index. The HalfLife brand became a marketing lever for the newly released hardware, way to promote it, but also it wasn't a cheap shot at promotion. It wasn't a 10-minute technological demo. It was an actual new, fully fledged Half-Life game release. No one was fooled into buying an expensive headset. And in time, it got released on different VR platforms, as I played it on my Oculus Quest 2. There is no doubt that, again, another successful game was pushed forward by building on top of the legacy and great strengths of the previous games, while also adding the innovation never seen before. So let's, for the final time, look at Lenny's list and see which points apply to HalfLife Alyx. Pause the video now. I think you're not surprised to hear that the same points that apply to Half-Life 2 also can be attributed to HalfLife Alyx. For the third time, we got an excellent game that had an outstanding plot with engaging characters, and Half-Life Alyx built on top of experiences of Half-Life 2. Yet again, we got innovation in the form of new VR platforming experience, where we could be in the game when the immersion was complete. On top of that, great reviews made it that you wanted to play this game and experience the unique gameplay firsthand. You wanted to join the hype train and see what's the fuss about, even if it meant buying a very expensive headset. That was perhaps the biggest success of HalfLife Alyx, because you can view it as a marketing stunt, and yet no one cared. Everyone wanted to play an excellent game that wouldn't be what it is without the VR aspect. And this is the story of the Half-Life series. Thank you for staying with me until the end of the video. Now, I believe that you have a very good understanding on why Half-Life series was such a success from the IT product manager's point of view. I showcased a few stories that showed that with new, great breaking products, you need to be brave, you need to have a vision, and you need to verify this vision. The vision for Half-Life was the innovative storytelling approach to FPS games that was verified on the E3 Expo, and which pushed the release of the game for a year so that it can be polished, so that the MVP that was successful can be invested in a way to create even a better product, a product that's memorable until this day. Then we move on to the learnings from Half-Life 2 that tell us that if we have a strong base, strong product, we need to choose our features wisely to emphasize the core value of the product, the core storytelling and immersion of Half-Life 2, while they're also trying something different, like with the gravity gun. That was an important part of the whole gaming experience in this game. You have learned how to promote other products using your core product, like using Half-Life 2 to promote Steam and Half-Life Alyx to promote VR headset. Half-Life Alyx also teaches us, product managers, on how to leverage what we already have in a completely new way, which, despite visually being very similar, was a step forward. Using different tools, different platform, something new had happened, something extraordinary. And that's what I'm leaving you with, my dear product managers. Create extraordinary products. Learn from Half-Life history, and if you want to learn more, if you want to know more on how to become a great product manager, please do check out my courses on Udemy and Skillshare. Links are now on the screen, and I'll see you again in my next video. See you then.